What if the most dangerous weapon in the Middle East right now isn't a bomb, a missile, or a drone, but a single photograph posted online? A picture of a ship, a Marine Expeditionary Unit, floating in the Persian Gulf. Before we dive into what this actually means, hit that like button if you want to understand the real chess game unfolding here. Subscribe so you don't miss the next move. And share this with someone who thinks they already know how this ends, because they probably don't. Here is the thing about the Islamic Republic of Iran. They have spent 40 years building a system of survival based on bluff, delay, and deception. They talk, they threaten, they negotiate, they walk away, then they talk again. It is a rhythm so predictable that most analysts have learned to just wait for the next round. But something changed, and the change is not in Tehran. The change is sitting offshore, 20 miles from the most important piece of Iranian real estate that almost nobody talks about. We need to go back to the beginning of this story. Not the beginning of the conflict, but the beginning of the moment. A few weeks ago, Iranian forces attacked 2 commercial ships near the Strait of Hormuz. That is not new. They have been doing this for months. What is new is how Washington responded. Not with a warning, not with sanctions, not with a strongly worded statement. 10 confirmed strikes on Iranian military targets. 2 of those targets were brand new facilities the IRGC had just built to make shipping even more dangerous. They were still under construction when they were destroyed. Think about that for a second. Iran built something. The United States knew exactly where it was before it was finished, and they hid it before it could ever be used. That is not routine. That is a signal. And the signal says, we can see everything you build, and we will take it before you ever touch it. But the signal did not come in the form of a press conference or a diplomatic note. It came in the form of a picture posted by CENTCOM, the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, locked, loaded, and parked in the Persian Gulf, a self-contained fighting force of about 2,200 Marines and sailors. No airfield needed, no permission from any country, no supply lines to establish, no warning required. This unit can launch F-35B stealth fighters from a ship deck, put armored vehicles on a beach, and insert special operators into the water, all in the same afternoon. And it is sitting right next to the single most vulnerable point in the entire Iranian economy. So what is the deal with Iran? Why are they refusing to show up to their own meetings? The Iranian foreign minister said talks in Doha were unconfirmed. The American president announced them from the Oval Office. One of these 2 things is true. Either the meeting was never actually agreed to by Iran, and the United States overstated the situation, or Iran is publicly denying it while secretly using back channels to negotiate. Both of these possibilities exist at the same time, and the only way to figure out which one is real is to look at what is happening on the ground, on the water, and on the balance sheet. Iran wants $6 billion in frozen assets released. That is not a negotiating position. That is a number that represents survival. Their oil exports have been choked. Their tankers are being seized. Their ports have been hit. Their rail lines have been cut. Their power plants are degraded. Their economy is absorbing damage on every front. $6 billion is the cash they need to stop the bleeding. Not to win, not to expand, to keep the lights on, to keep the military paid, to keep the subsidies flowing to a population that is already tired. Tired of a regime that promised them prosperity and gave them isolation. But here is the problem for Tehran. The United States is not just squeezing one artery. They are squeezing all of them at the same time. And the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit is the physical representation of that strategy. Let us talk about the unit itself, because most of the coverage does not actually explain what it can do. A Marine Expeditionary Unit is not a scaled-down version of a larger force. It is a purpose-built instrument designed to fight in exactly the kind of environment the Persian Gulf represents. It has a ground combat element, a reinforced infantry battalion that can take and hold terrain. It has an aviation combat element, F-35Bs that can take off and land vertically from an amphibious assault ship. That means they do not need a runway. They do not need an airbase. They can fly from a ship that is also carrying landing craft and hovercraft and armored vehicles. The same ship that launches stealth fighters can launch a beach invasion in the same hour. It has a logistics combat element that can sustain the entire force for 2 weeks without any outside supply. 2 weeks. In a contested environment where supply lines are the most vulnerable part of any operation. A force that brings its own sustainment for 14 days is a force that can act with speed and surprise. This is a capability that other units cannot match, and it has a command element that integrates all of these pieces with the broader joint force. F-15s, F-16s, naval strike packages, all coordinated from a single node that sits on the water. Now ignore all of that for a second, because there is one part of the MEU that is more important than all the others. And it is the part that almost nobody talks about. Marine Force Reconnaissance. Specifically, the Maritime Raid Force. These are not normal infantry. They go first, quietly, days or weeks before any visible operation. They swim into objective areas. They fast rope into them, They use small drones that can launch from the water and feed live video back to the command ship. They do this before anyone on the beach knows they're there. Their entire job is to find the cracks in the enemy's defenses, and then widen them. They widen them until the main force can pour through. Force recon is trained to seize oil platforms, to board ships, to take islands, to strike radar installations and port facilities. Every single one of these capabilities maps directly onto the geography of the Persian Gulf. And specifically, it maps onto one small piece of land that Iran cannot afford to lose, Karg Island. If you have never heard of Karg Island, do not feel bad. Most people have not. But it is the most important piece of Iranian territory that is not a nuclear facility or a military base. It is an oil export terminal. About 90% of Iran's oil leaves the country through Karg Island. 90%. That is not a vulnerability. That is the definition of a single point of failure. If Karg Island goes offline, Iran does not lose some of its oil revenue. It loses almost all of it. The government stops being able to pay its bills. The military stops being able to buy equipment. The social programs that keep the population from revolting stop being funded. The entire system that the Islamic Republic has built over 40 years collapses, and the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit is sitting 16 miles away. Do you see now why the picture matters? It is not a coincidence. It is not a routine deployment. It is a message carved into the geography of the region. We have the ability to take away everything, and we are close enough to do it before you can stop us. Iran has fortified Karg Island. Of course they have. There are surface-to-air missile positions, radar towers, communications infrastructure, fast attack craft docked at naval facilities. These sit right next to the oil loading equipment. But here's the thing about that fortification. It was built to defend against a specific kind of threat: air raids, missile strikes, naval bombardment. It was not built to defend against a unit that can land F-35Bs on a ship deck. It cannot stop force recon operators using small drones from the water. And it cannot stop armored vehicles while suppressing every radar and missile site on the island. The F-35B is not just a stealth fighter. It is a tool designed to operate against point defenses. The radar towers are exactly the kind of target that has been systematically struck throughout this campaign. The sequence is simple: suppress the air defenses, destroy the radar and communications, then strike the operational assets. It has worked everywhere else. There's no reason to believe it would not work here. And beyond Karg Island, the MEU has another target in its sights: Bandar Abbas, Iran's primary Gulf port and the home of the IRGC Navy's main operational fleet. Satellite imagery shows hovercraft bases, helicopter facilities, SAM sites, and underground bunkers, and the fast attack boats that have been harassing shipping in the strait. A Marine Expeditionary Unit offers a completely different set of options against Bandar Abbas. These options are distinct from the precision strike campaign that has already been degrading it. Whether those options are exercised depends on decisions made far away from the Persian Gulf. But the capability is there, staged and ready. Now, let us talk about the intelligence success that most people have missed. 2 newly constructed Iranian military sites were identified and destroyed before they became functional. American intelligence found them both while the concrete was still wet. This is not routine. This is a surveillance architecture of a kind that Iran has no effective counter to. Persistent, comprehensive coverage of the Iranian coastline that operates faster than Iran can build. Iran cannot build its way back to capability faster than American intelligence can find and target it. The 2 new sites were identified, targeted, and destroyed before a single drone ever launched. Whatever Iran builds next on the coastline faces the same intelligence coverage from the start. Hit that like button if you're starting to see the full picture. Subscribe to stay ahead, and share this with someone who thinks this is just another round of the same old game. The IRGC's command structure in the strait has been degraded in a way that compounds physical damage. Reports indicate that Iranian naval commander Tanguiri was removed from the picture in earlier strikes. Tanguiri built the strait closure playbook. He knew which officers could be trusted with missions. Remove the architect, and the playbook becomes a document, not a living operational system. The IRGC's strait control doctrine is currently running without its main designer. There is another capability that the MEU brings: intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. ISR. MQ-9. Reaper drones can be operated from amphibious assault ships. Small drones providing real-time feeds can be launched from the same vessel preparing strikes. Every new IRGC construction project and mobile radar activation can be observed in near real time. The surveillance and the strike capability are on the same ship. This integration makes the MEU fundamentally different from simply adding more aircraft. One-way attack drones remain available in significant numbers. The drone inventory is replenishable. Fast attack boats retain the ability to operate from island concealment and emerge for harassment. Anti-ship missiles and mines remain a passive, persistent threat that does not depend on command. What changes is the option space that Iran can consider without facing an immediate response. An IRGC unit has to consider the possibility that force recon operators have been observing them. There's also a forward positioning option on the Omani side of the strait approaches. Building a persistent presence on Omani territory would put marine hardware close to the strait. An MEU presence there would avoid legal complications while achieving persistent coverage. The strategic logic is sound, and the geographic positioning makes it operationally feasible. The 31st MEU's positioning communicates to the Iranian leadership to calculate their moves. Military capability is specifically staged against the one asset the Iranian position depends on. The $6 billion in frozen assets represents the liquid cash Iran needs immediately. Karg Island represents the oil revenue that gives Iran medium-term economic sustainability. The Marine Expeditionary Unit is positioned to threaten both the liquid and productive assets. This represents a compounding of adverse conditions that the Republic has not previously faced. Prior iterations of pressure applied pressure across one or two dimensions at a time. The current campaign is applying pressure across all of them simultaneously, which is why the Doha meeting confusion matters analytically. An Iranian government with operational flexibility does not fail to confirm its own diplomatic meetings. An Iranian government that cannot confirm its attendance is under multidimensional strain. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit did not arrive for a diplomatic show. It arrived for readiness. The distinction between theater and capability has never been narrower than it is now. Iran's leadership is doing the same calculus. That is the point. Not to execute, but to deter. Washington is betting with Marines. The Mullahs are running the numbers. If you made it this far, you understand the game. Subscribe and share this with others, because the next move is coming, and both sides know it.